All right. Yo, what's up, guys? Good evening to everyone who's in Asia. Once again, my name is John Sedano, Community Marketing Manager for Yield Guild Games, and my partner, Sarah Toby, the Head of Partnerships for YGG. How you doing, man?
Very good, very good. How are you, Peter?
Very good. I'm watching this badge right here.
Oh, it looks like you're from YGG now.
Yeah, right?
I want that
You
badge.
got me.
Yeah.
Well, let me give it to Sarah Toby for a
Oh,
minute.
yeah.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Now let's give it back to Peter. There you go. For tonight, you are our honorary member for YGG, Peter. And I mean, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man? Glad to have you here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Thank you very much so much. And like I was saying to Sarah Toby, it's great to actually see his face. And like, yeah, that's a bigger beard than I was expecting.
Oh, it's actually not. This is not as big a beard as I've historically had. I was trying to make myself more presentable when we were over in New York. So that was definitely I was trying to be more presentable in New York. That was the main thing, anyway.
Like it. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys. So Peter here, founder of BlockchainSpace, based in the Philippines, operating out of Singapore. Been in the Axie space for since 2018. Got introduced through Gabby, who everyone knows so well. Actually, Gabby and I basically co-organized the first ever Axie meetup in Manila, and so got to meet kind of Jiho and the founding Axie team since back in 2018. Been a big fan of the game, but also watched it kind of evolve, over the years, and saw the opportunity when, the first Axie scholarships popped up from, the community. And basically, with my background in kind of fintech, e-commerce, and developing markets, was able to kind of build some tooling around that. And it kind of evolved into a bigger business that we recently raised around a couple of rounds for, and now we'll be launching a token for.
Exciting stuff. So obviously we're lucky in the kind of YGG core team to have a good solid understanding of like the kind of value proposition and what BlockchainSpace does. But for those in the audience, it would be really exciting to just kind of give the kind of elevator pitch for BlockchainSpace and the tooling that you guys are developing for those in the audience.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you can kind of see us as a three-pronged kind of company. So we kind of have three pillars. So the first pillar is really what we call education and community. So what we've been building over the last year is a couple of different academies that are basically agnostic in the space and trying helping other guilds to kind of like set up and teach them about like the business models that are available. So we're running Axie Academy and Sandbox Academy. We're actually doing the scholarships ourselves, learning about kind of how it works, to kind of like keep up also with like what are the changes happening in the game. And so that education part's really important. That feeds into the second pillar, which is basically our automation. And so we basically started building automation in terms of like community management with like Discord bots. And then we're also in the process of about to release our web-based dashboard, and that basically supports scholarship owners, or what we call guild owners, right, in running their businesses, right. So the bigger you get, the harder it is really to manage so many people and to have visibility on everyone's performance. But then also on the payroll side, it's really hard to manage like so many payrolls in a manual fashion. And so we're building out like automated cash out features, and so that's on the tech side. And so on our third pillar, basically we are what we what we've allowed to do, basically based on the data that we aggregate, that people offer us through like the platform and the bots. We're basically able to kind of like aggregate a lot of data that allows us to provide financial services. Now, on the financial services side, the goal is right now, and it's kind of in the process. We want to be able to automate things like loans, like out to scholars, right, and out to guild owners based on basically historical performance of guilds. Looking at their last 1 month, 2 months, 3 months performance, and then coming up with like an automated way, as we all know in DeFi, right? All these things should be automated. It shouldn't be that you have to go back, look at a spreadsheet, and work out whether someone is eligible, but rather, it should be a Discord ID that says, "Hey, I've been playing Axie for the last 3 months. Look how well I've been playing. Could you loan me this amount so I can buy my first team?" We want to empower more people like that to become guild owners.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's really cool, like in my opinion, because I mean, we have so much talent in the community. We have so much, people just working day in and day out, but there's always going to be a roadblock, especially when it comes to the financial part of things. Not everyone can afford all these NFTs, all these assets that are coming into the game, into the space. I mean, Axie for one, I mean, it didn't really start, that costly, but eventually there have been people who have been blocked into entering the game, to entering the space. But it's good to hear that actually that you guys are thinking of these people. Like there is a niche, there is a demographic that is out there waiting for this to happen. But I mean, yeah, I mean, first of all, like congratulations on the growth of the project. But I mean, definitely without a team, I'm personally very interested to hear about who are the people you are working with closely to build blockchain space.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I have to say, like the first and foremost, the guilds are the most important people, right? So, we build around the guilds. Like the requirements of the guilds are kind of critical. We listen to kind of the guild. We get feedback from guilds every single day, and they're the ones that are first and foremost our partners, right? So, YGG is absolutely critical to basically our success, right? As well as like people like Merit Circle or Unix Guild, or Avocado Guild out there, and like several other guilds. And then on the micro guild level, we listen to kind of like all the people that only have like just a few scholars, like 5 scholars, 10 scholars. We need to understand their pain points, and they're the ones that we basically cater to, and we want to get them to that point where they can actually scale up and become a much bigger business. In terms of like our team recently, so we have scaled up, like especially since we raised. We've got some core like community managers that have been like either in aficionados like in the sandbox, who like very passionate about voxel kind of creation. Also very passionate about representing the Philippines, because we represent the Sandbox Philippines community. And then from the Axie community, some community managers that have been playing the game basically for like the last half year to a year, and they know the meta inside out. These people are really, really core. And then on kind of like on the higher level positions, so like I guess like the slightly more complex stuff, we've been really actively working on business partnerships. So I mean, for us, it's all about working with the guilds. But what we realized is, so I've been doing some numbers recently, right? And it might shock some people, kind of like how many guilds are actually out there already, right? So if you were to ask me today, I'd say probably around 20,000. If you'd asked me like 2 months ago, I would have said around 5,000, right? So I think like over that span of like a couple of months, the proliferation of guilds is like just going crazy.
Yeah.
That's really.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Toby.
I was just saying I mean, it's really incredible, and I see this as a metric that's only going to just increase, because obviously, like, these 20,000 guilds, as of right now, the kind of most viable economy is obviously just Axie. What happens to this space when we have 10 games as big or bigger than Axie? What happens with 100 games as big or bigger than Axie? I mean, we'll see. From my understanding, yeah, and I just see AXU Spicer asking a very valid question there, which is obviously something that's going to be super relevant, and it was actually a question I was already going to ask anyway. You've mentioned obviously having the kind of sandbox components. Obviously, I think what's going to be so meaningful and tying back into this idea of all these other games evolving, what are going to be the kind of first games that you guys kind of target from the kind of analytics side and other kind of that piece?
Yeah, definitely. So we've been doing surveys. We're keeping tabs kind of on what the guilds are basically playing, right? And so it is a little bit early days right now to even I guess to speculate, because I mean we've seen like Thetan Arena kind of taking off. We know that there's a lot of kind of guilds like getting into Thetan Arena already, but there are so many other titles out there, and what we'll do is we'll let the data speak for itself. And so, we'll basically get feedback from the guilds that we're already monitoring. So, we're monitoring around 2,500 guilds today on a daily basis, right? And those guys are basically going to be the ones to tell us, okay, we need tooling for this one next, because we don't want to get ourselves into that situation where we build tooling for the next game, and then suddenly the guilds suddenly go into another game, and then we end up building something that's a bit redundant. So yeah, we everything that we build is completely cross-platform. So if we're managing assets in Axie, we're managing assets in Sandbox, or we're managing assets in Thetan Arena. It's like it should all be 100% compatible.
Yeah, I mean that's really good to hear. I was gonna ask you. I mean, like, how did it actually like come together? Like, what made you decide like this is the project that I personally want to pursue? I mean, definitely like necessity is the mother of invention, right? But what was the thought process in that made you just say that what, it's go time. There's a need for it, and I can fill this demand.
Yeah, dude. So the journey's been incredible, right? So I definitely say it didn't just happen overnight. So if for the guys that know me in the Philippines community, they know that I've been running events meetups since 2018, right? So since we not just Axie, but we hosted like around 150 meetups in the span of like 2.5 years, right? So we did a lot of like networking, meeting up with communities, and ultimately, if you reflect back and say like, what were we doing like with all these meetups and like all these education kind of events? We were basically trying to help people get into crypto, right? We were teaching them about the technology. We were teaching them about wallets. We're teaching about exchanging, from one currency to another. We're teaching them about DeFi, and then suddenly along comes Axie and absolutely explodes. Right. And so when it took the Philippines by storm, I think that was the moment where we said well, for me, it was basically the moment where I knew it. Like I was like, I'd already been in the Axie community. I'd already been playing the game. I knew that people were learning about wallets, right? But I just didn't have that conviction that, that people were gonna, learn about how to use MetaMask, learn how to use Ronin Wallet, learn how to cash out through Binance, just from playing this game. But then I guess the narrative about this playing to earn, and then during COVID, became so compelling, and it's just kind of like spreaded out this like completely new community, and like went into hyper growth, right? And now it's just kind of like, man, it's like a no-brainer, right? And so I kind of like, from that point where I saw actually going viral in the Philippines, I knew that, okay, wait a minute, if it can go viral here, it can go viral in other developing markets, right? And so I knew that was the time basically to go all in.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, basically almost everyone in the space right now started with, I know, with Axie. Like, that was their gateway into GameFi. I mean, I definitely, everyone would agree that it has opened so many doors, not only for the people already in the space, but for those who didn't actually like have a chance, to get into blockchain. But now we have GameFi, we have all these games that are going to be coming up. There's going to be huge demand. There's going to be so many people coming into the space, and yeah, it just makes sense, that there is blockchain space that will create that platform for these up and coming people into the whole scene. But like my question is, so YGG, we've currently invested in blockchain space. Like I'd want to know. So where will these investments be allocated to at first? What is the next project where you will be needing all of these investments?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a long way to go, kind of in terms of the tooling and the robustness of the tooling, right? So I know that there is a lot of community-made projects out there, and I mean, we have been using community tools as well, right? But I think there is a slight difference in terms of like when you want to bring it to the masses, right? When you want to scale up, you have to be kind of enterprise level, right? And then that's where it gets a little bit complex. So things like data security, thinking about kind of how you manage funds, making sure that people's funds are secure, making sure that data is properly stored, and you don't take any kind of like personal data that people don't want you taking. Then that's really a big kind of challenge, and that's so that's why we've been taking our time ready to build something that's more robust, that can actually scale to the bigger numbers. So we're looking at the next 20,000 guilds. If you consider it like every single guild maybe to be like at least 1,000 scholars, maybe then you could be going into the millions of players, right? And so we want that platform to be ready basically for the next wave of people that are going to come in. And just like I said, like the number of guilds is increasing every single day. It's just the scholarship model just makes so much sense, right? Before, people didn't understand all this like technical stuff, like getting into crypto. They were having to learn about like RPCs on MetaMask or something, right? And that didn't even make sense to anyone. And then now, like, all they need to know is like, okay, buy 5 teams from Axie, and then you can just load them out to your friend and you get a commission share, right? And that for them kind of like makes a lot of sense. But yeah, in terms of like the other roadmap, like once these platforms and the tools are out, we basically want to help guilds to level up, to scale, right? So the more data that is shared with us, the more data that we can aggregate, the more we can actually share it with bigger platforms, which can give you exposure to like bigger investors, the investors that you didn't know even existed out there. So like the last couple of months, I spent a lot of time on calls with investors from all around the world, and they all want to invest in guilds, but they just have no idea who are these, like, especially the smaller guilds, might be like 15 to 50 people, right? They have no idea who they are. And so I guess you guys might have seen, like, we had a partnership with CoinGecko. So we'll be the ones providing the data feed for Axie scholarships into CoinGecko. And I know a lot of people know about that, that Axie scholarship page in CoinGecko, and it's going to be absolutely
famously so wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the first thing I said to Bobby at CoinGecko is like, dude,
where do you get this information from?
Exactly, because they've clearly like tried to they've clearly just put someone inside a Discord server and said, hey guys, what's the commission rate or something, right? And then they probably spoke to some random, and then they got all the commission rates wrong. And I think that for one is such an important thing. Like, there are a lot of guilds that don't want to be associated with like the wrong commission rate. If you're offering if CoinGecko says you're offering less than 50%, that's like shame on you, right? And it's already like people will frown upon that, right? And that's the kind of data that we should be able to clear up, and then we need to be able to provide a reliable feed to CoinGecko. Now, on top of that, right, when you've got the data there already, right, what can you do? Now, we've got so much planned in terms of like helping people to see like who are the best asset managers in Southeast Asia, who are the best in South America, right? And then to be able to link those people up with, number one, right, bigger guilds. So guilds are investing in other guilds, and especially like the micro guilds, right? They want micro guilds. Micro guilds are the great asset managers of the space. They're very nimble. They can adapt to quick game changes in well, I'd say Axie, because Axie makes a lot of changes, right? So when you come season 19, right, and then all the cards have suddenly changed, and then your Axies aren't performing well, you need to have a smaller number of accounts where you can quickly chop and change your Axies, right? But when you get to 1,000 accounts, right, changing Axies within 1,000 accounts becomes really difficult and really costly. So bigger guilds want to find the smaller guilds so that they can scale, right? So that they can build a bigger community, right? So I think guilds are going to be number one. External investors, like the private investors that want to find an opportunity for someone that a lot of investors don't want to manage a scholarship program, and they want someone else to manage it for them. Now imagine if I could say, hey, there's this investor in South America that wants to invest in a South American guild, and I can connect him with them. Or that South American person wants to connect with someone in India and happens to, wants to be able to do something for the Indian population. Now, imagine if I could do that. So that becomes really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's terrific, man. Because like the way I see it is, like having 5 scholars, it's great. Having 10, wonderful. But once you get to 50 to 100 to three, I mean, Saratobi, you could definitely relate to this, dude. How is it once you get to like these huge numbers? How difficult is it for you, especially if you don't have the tools? It's a totally different story, man.
It is very challenging. I mean, it's something where you just have to rely on raw manpower, and just like Peter said, yeah, sometimes, as a guild gets to be like, 300 plus, it can get very challenging to kind of shift a little bit unless you have like lots of capital to deploy. So yeah, I definitely see like huge opportunity in this concept of the micro guilds. And even if going back to what you said earlier, Peter, about how you're going to provide these tools to be able to enable more micro guilds to exist. I mean, one of the kind of huge themes that I think few really understand right now is in terms of economic actors in the space. If you look at a game like Axie or other play to earn games, without kind of more kind of dispersed smaller economic actors, games will have problems in terms of sustainability long term, and kind of transmuting the kind of typical scholar into a more invested and engaged participant in an economy will kind of, in theory, kind of build this like extremely robust layer of investors, which should hopefully over time create a much more kind of reliable layer of like engaged investors, rather than just like only big guilds and their huge scholarship bases, because there is an issue there in terms of sustainability in play to earn economies, because one would hope that these kind of micro guilds will be really important and really key in kind of developing out these kind of lower level investors. It should keep the space really interesting, and hopefully encourage people at the kind of low level to be kind of active economic participants, thus creating more sustainable play to earn economies.
Definitely, 100% agree.
Awesome. So, yeah, I suppose in terms of like, where are we? Sorry. In terms of like the kind of blockchain side, I mean, this token is launching on as an ERC20. From a kind of blockchain tech perspective, and are you guys going to stay on ETH mainnet, or how are you guys approaching the kind of L2 and kind of multi-blockchain space?
Yeah, definitely. So good question. The reason we launched on ETH was really out of familiarity, right? So I think a lot of people in the space, they're still really familiar with purchasing on Ethereum. They know how to use MetaMask, and they don't need to change RPCs like I mentioned earlier. But I know that other chains are becoming really popular really quick, like Solana's like going crazy. Matic's going crazy as well, and I know that you could avoid those really high gas fees. I think in terms of just for our launch, right, just to raise money, right? So we chose ETH just because it's for familiarity, and I don't think anything deeper than that. But obviously, we're massive ETH fans, and we'll support the ecosystem, to our last breath. But we 100% look to kind of become multi-chain in the future. And we've actually spoken to Axie before and said, hey, can we list Guild token on Ronin? Right, we'd love to be able to be on Ronin, and to be able to support the Axie ecosystem as well, right? So that would be absolutely a dream. For now, we can't, but I mean, yes, we need to avoid those gas fees eventually. So there are plans to basically bridge once after we've launched.
Awesome. I mean,
Exciting
sounds
stuff.
great. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to jump in, Alexei, but I wanted to ask you, like Peter, like very specifically. So let's say for 2022, like it's gonna be a huge year for GameFi. So what do you have planned for 2022? And I mean, to add to that, how about for the next 5 years, next 10 years? Where do you see blockchain space in the whole ecosystem?
Dude, I mean, like it's so hard to make like grandiose like predictions for crypto just because of like how quick everything
Yeah.
changes, right? Definitely don't hold me to any of the predictions. But I think the one thing that I see that's really clear, right, is that there are more games that are going to come out, and there are going to be more guilds coming out as well, right? So we basically see ourselves being very, very important in the space to connect games and guilds, right? So once we have a lot of guilds, listed on our platform, we basically become a distribution channel for the games. So imagine a game wants to come, it comes onto our platform and says, "Hey, we need to mobilize guilds." Like, we'll basically, one example could be like, the game is based in the US, and so they have access to US community. They might even have access to South American community, right? But they don't have community in, India, Africa, Asia, or Southeast Asia, right? And then that's where we can help out. We can be like, hey, there are the best guilds and the ones that you're looking for on this particular region, right? So we can definitely become like the basically the data point, also the marketplace, basically for games to be able to find the right guilds, right? And then of course, like these games, they want people to be incentivized with their token. They want the best players from each region to come and play their game, and so that can happen through our platform. Basically, we become a distribution point for their token, and we can help them, and that basically can also be intertwined with our own token.
I mean, that's pretty cool, man. I mean, we actually like have one of our community members, like he's has like a really awesome message for you there. But I mean, I totally agree. Like, imagine all the other people, all the other smaller, I mean, all the other guilds that are gonna be empowered with all this infrastructure that will be in place in the next couple of months, next couple of years for you guys. But like another question for you, Peter, is, what about the new guys coming into this space? Like, what can blockchain space do for the new entrants into crypto?
Yeah, so we our aim is basically to set up an academy for each game, right? So when we decide to go into a game, we want to be able to go into like the education side, and help as many people to learn about the business models that are kind of evolving there. And so that's another thing that we want to incentivize within our own community is share learnings with each other. This is like a very nascent space. We are not competitors of each other. I mean, like, for me, I'm 100% neutral. Like, I want everyone to win in this space, right? And and we should be like that because there are a lot of bad actors out there as well, and and the technology is still really complicated, right? So why not help each other and understand the technology better? So that's the idea is basically set up an academy for each different game that we go into, and that will provide tooling for, right? So we want to go from A to B, A to C, right? So we want to go from educate the new people coming into the space so they understand like what are the business models that already exist, to okay, you've started up your guild. You need some like, you need an ERP solution where you can monitor like dashboards and like you can see like how your scholars are performing, right? And you need to now you can like automate all your cash outs to the next step, which is if you wish to do so, do you want to scale up or do you want to help out your people, that are within your guild, right? So we will provide that financing solution for you. Right, so that the whole idea is it's a three-step process: education straight through to scaling up.
Yeah, I mean, dude, sounds really good, man. Like right now we have all the tools that's just everywhere. I mean, you have to go to different guilds, you have to go to different platforms, different websites, and I mean, not every one of them is 100% safe, I would say, but like having a credible place to go to. I mean, just alleviates all the doubt and just makes you feel safer in general. So like right now, let's say for example, we do understand that you guys are launching the guild token soon. I mean, would you mind like talking about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I mentioned like there are going to be different participants in the guild so ecosystem in the blockchain and that use the blockchain space tooling, right? And so ultimately what we want to do is like we want to reward participants within the ecosystem. So you use our tooling, you'll start receiving rewards for every
Excuse me.
time you use like the Discord bot. Every single command that you run in the Discord bot is going to be tracked, right? And then it'll go back to it's not just the guild owner, but it's the scholar, right? The scholar gets to earn our guild tokens, and that those guild tokens basically can be used for other services in the future. So we look to basically do more partnerships, right? We want to partner with everyone in the guild space, right? Create a whole ecosystem where guild is widely accepted as basically this neutral token between different games, different guilds. That the idea is that we want to be able to provide like a lot of utility for that guild token, right? We also see like the people that are interested in like getting into the guild ecosystem are the games, like the game titles themselves. They want to be able to market to other to the guilds, and we want to do that in a fair way. So the people that are using the Axie Academy bot, you may have seen like there's an advertising space at the very bottom of the output of every single command, right? So we have never taken advantage of that advertising space. We literally just say like, hey, this is the Axie Academy bot, or this is now, this is BlockchainSpace's tool, right? But we never put like, some other person's game on there. Why? Because very, very carefully, we want we don't want to invade guilds private spaces, right? And like spam them with like adverts, right? We could have done that a lot of times, but we decided not to do this. And so the better way to do it is, look, if someone wants to market to all the guilds and use our advertising space, we want the guilds to get a cut of that earnings, right? So if you have that marketing space, right? Let's say crypto.com wants to come in and spend $500,000 to advertise to the guilds for a year. Right now, that revenue from that $500,000, right, will go straight into our treasury and into the guild token, right? And we'll for all the members that are part of the guild ecosystem, so especially those that basically hold the token or are founding members, so a lot of people know this. There will be a founders token, so make sure you get involved in that. Right, and so for the people that participate in the ecosystem, they will get back that revenue that was generated from the marketing, right? It's not about us taking that. It's about helping the guilds to monetize from their own community, right? So people want to tap that community, but they should get paid for it, right? So we want to use guild as basically that way of like transferring that value to them.
Yeah, I see. I mean, so specifically like Saratobi, like if it was you actually like using the platform, I mean, it would either be like you already knew about that game, or like they're never gonna be getting an AMA with YGG, right?
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
If it's spam, like what's happening right now on our chats. If it was one of those, those games that don't stop, you know what I'm saying?
I suppose possibly not. I suppose that leads to an interesting question. I mean, I think that like the kind of picks and shovels industry for kind of play to earn analytics dashboards and these things, I think that's going to be a truly kind of explosive industry, and it's going to like be kind of like quite a challenge to kind of develop across so many evolving platforms. I mean, I suppose I've got kind of two segments to the kind of question here. One part would be like, how are you going to tackle this problem of like, the decision-making process of like, okay, how are we going to are you going to like use like decentralized voting with the guild token to make the decisions on where to develop the kind of the platform in terms of like, which games to focus on? And then on the other piece, like as kind of other participants like that building out maybe like dedicated community dashboards, data analytics tools for like smaller games that maybe evolve and grow bigger, would you guys like strategically partner with those guys and kind of plug into them, or would you just straight up acquire them, or how do you guys see yourself working there? So I know that's kind of two questions, so
Yeah, sure. So I think in general, like the space is just too small to like compete with anyone, right? So I think like every dashboard or community tool that exists out there is amazing. I literally have been using them, up until now, right? But I think our picture is kind of like different. Like we're now in the next wave of users, right? As opposed to kind of like support, not just support like the existing people, but we want to grow the space a lot, right? So it's something that's really so that's something we recognize a lot. And what we've done now is we've already started like building data feeds, right? And we're very transparent and very open about this, right? We provide the aggregated data that we have. We want others to build off it. We want them to like provide their own products and tools off it. We know that crypto moves so quick. There are too many smart people in this space that there's no way that we're going to build all the best products in this space, right? And so we just want to be the one thing, right? We want to be the single source of truth, right, for guild data in the future. So like an oracle for guild data, right? And that's the one thing that we want to maintain, right? And then from that, we'll let others be the ones to build the best products on top of that, right? And so, you want to help guilds specifically in South America. We'll provide you, the data for the South American guilds, right? But you can be the one to like, automate a lot of like, the investor relations or the game relations. I think that's going to happen basically through, smarter people. There are so many crazy smart people in this space, and we want to basically work with them all. And I think, like you said, like, are we looking at basically acquiring them or partnering with them? I think both, right? So where it makes sense, we'll either partner with people, or where it makes sense, we definitely probably want to acquire. Like, if we can't build the best products, in that are localized in each country, or for very niche kind of use cases. Right, so like we don't want to make the best breeding tool. There'll be other people that make the best breeding tools, right? We want to work with everyone.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I suppose where I kind of leading on from what you've said there, you kind of from the kind of guild perspective, and you see these kind of guilds growing in like Latin America, like you've mentioned there, and obviously like there's this whole conversation surrounding micro guilds, and obviously this huge explosion of growth in the micro guild space in, say, Philippines. I mean, from the data that you have right now, where apart from, say, forgetting Philippines and maybe other Southeast Asian countries and forgetting Latin America, where is the kind of next largest area of kind of micro guild growth that you can see?
So I mean, like according to our data, right? It's really based on like who we're basically tracking right now. So we can see that, Asia is by far like the largest guild space, right? And I'm sure like a lot of this is attributed basically to the Philippines, right? And then the next space is actually, believe it or not, all around the Americas, right? So like either North America or South America, there's a lot of like activity happening there, right? Past that, then you've got like actually a few guilds kind of like operating out the European region, right? And then we just started tracking our first ever African guild as well, right? So we know that Africa is starting to pop up. Now,
I
the
think
thing
that's
is,
going to be a massive thing. Africa is
For
such
sure.
so I think it kind of, in terms of like people's consciousness, especially in the West as well, there's this whole kind of, recognition of Africa as a continent that needs so much kind of help from traditional NGOs. And I think that like the kind of play to earn movement has such a potential to kind of replace traditional
Yeah.
charitable giving. I think it completely could revolutionize charitable giving in such an interesting way. So I'm super excited to see how that kind of narrative, because I think the Africa narrative is going to be absolutely massive as and when it pops off. Quickly going back to Europe, though, out of kind of Europe, can you kind of specifically see like who the kind of leader in kind of micro guilds is, or even guilds is in terms of like European countries? That would be a really interesting
so we
thing to
do
look at.
have, we've got something called the Guild Owners Insights Report that we've now made available basically to all the guild owners. But I think we are basically going to make this available to all members of the public, right? And so if you are a guild owner, make sure you reach out to us, right, so that we can give you a copy of this. I don't know if I can share it with, but let me try and put it into our Telegram, and then you guys can grab it, actually. Give me a second. Hey, John, maybe you can grab that from our Telegram.
Yeah, so while we're at it, I'd like to invite everyone who's tuned in at home. Don't forget to ask your questions. So we are actually active right now on the Discord, the YGG Discord chat. That's the AMA/discussion text channel. So make sure to drop your questions there. And of course, yeah, we'd like to make a shout out to everyone who's helping out. Yeah, we have Apollo from BlockchainSpace, who's actually like shared some like a really cool campaign that you guys have. So if you guys want to find out more about that, we might talk about it in a bit. But please do drop by the YGG AMA discussion text channel. And yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, cool. I don't know if you were able to like put up the. Do you think you could put up the insights report? I sent you the link in Telegram.
Yeah, I was just having a look at it there myself. I see that like on a kind of, you kind of have Europe, but don't necessarily kind of go into more granular kind of data just right now.
Not just yet. Yeah. So that will take a little bit of tweaking. So basically, this report that you see here, it's basically monitoring 2,500 guilds today that are using pretty much our Axie Academy bot. When our dashboard does go live, then it will aggregate the dashboard as well. I just want to debunk something, right? So a lot of people don't realize, like, a lot of these communities that are setting up in the guild space, they're actually quite small. So you can see the average Discord members in a guild is 401 right now, right? So it's not that large. Like a lot of people think that Discords always have to be like thousands or tens of thousands of people. It doesn't, right? There's average. The average guild is really only 400 people, right? And then have a look at the average scholar count there, right? So right now the average scholar count's 8. Right, and of course, like this depends on the people that give us that data. But I mean, this is basically omitting like people who don't give us the data, and then taking the average across like as much data as we've got. Right, so I would say it's pretty accurate. Right, and the more people that do participate and use the Axie Academy bot, then you are already contributing to basically making global data available to everyone, right? So this thing is like basically available to everyone. And it's real time. It connects to our database, which is uploaded. It's constantly being updated, right? So yeah, we've got like right now regional information, and then we've got per region who the largest guilds are. Now the interesting part is that we have automated it by basically like where is the server based, right? So that's
Yeah,
why you see,
YGG is
yeah,
in Europe.
exactly. So it's probably where it first like was created, like in terms of like where the server was created. You know,
The interesting thing though, and this is something that not everybody always really kind of completely understands about YGG itself, is that like YGG in itself isn't really a typical guild or scholarship, you know, because obviously YGG leverages at least, you know, at least 18 satellite scholarships for the
exactly.
actual kind of scholars themselves. So obviously on that front, you know, I suppose many of those will eventually kind of appear on here as well. But do you know what? Looking at this data does actually make me like super bullish for the space, because if you look at like the fact that US and Europe are just trailing so far behind, that just means that like they just obviously haven't kind of cottoned on to the you know what's happening. And you know, as we see this kind of narrative gain traction, I think that it would be interesting to see whether we see like a growth in kind of US and European guilds, because obviously if that does happen, you know, one could assume, and you know, if we see this kind of global shift of growth, it's going to be something really amazing to see. In terms of like regions, are there any other regions here that like would, because does Europe include like all of the whole kind of like Canada, no, not Canada, sorry, Canada, Russia is what I meant to say. Does that include Russia as well, like Europe?
Good question. I'd need to speak to our team about that. Actually,
And
I'll find.
Australia, is that included in Asia?
Good question again. Yeah, that's a good one. So
I'd love to
yeah,
see
find
like
out.
I'm a data freak, so I'd love to see like more granular data about some of this stuff. An interesting kind of choice to go for the kind of server base rather than and I think that makes sense, right? In some respects.
Yeah.
So like really excited to see the kind of data here, and this is going to be something that I now check on a regular basis to see how it evolves. And that's an interesting. Is there going to be? Could you imagine some sort of data visualization to be able to see the trends evolve over time, like so that you could
One.
see like,
Oh yeah.
so like you could maybe see like number of guilds over a time period and see like the kind of growth in different geographical areas?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is just getting started. This is V1.
This is
Oh
excite. This
yeah,
shit excites me. Now I have to say.
yeah.
Oh, I should probably not swear. Forgive me. Sorry. We're on family friendly channels these days. I have to stop. I have to remember that. But yeah, no, I'm really into data, and I think like having these kind of tools readily available will really kind of paint a picture for investors throughout the world, and kind of probably attract even more capital than what's already flooding into the space. So it's super exciting to see this kind of tools, because it's just so sorely needed in the space as a whole. So
Yeah,
definitely exciting stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. And these kind of tools are complemented by the other tools that the community are building. So I mean, like Axie community are so active in like building tools that are more granular in just focusing on Axie. But for us, it's more about giving the scholarship owners or the guild owners, right, that kind of benchmark data to understand if they're even performing well, right? So it's good to have like an average daily SLP tracker, right? So you need to know like if your scholars are only earning like 90 SLP or just over 100 SLP, you can actually start cracking the whip and saying, hey, wait a minute, I can see people in our region of the world are actually earning higher as an average. Maybe I'm not being as strict as I should be, right? And so it gives you at least that data point where you can make decisions. Like you can be more strict or you could be less strict, right? But at least you've got a data point now to reference, right? Also the MMR range, right? Like having average MMR, that allows you to kind of like and regionally average MMR, right? So like you can already see here, like there's better average MMR in Asia than there is in Europe, right? And so like and that's average, remember? So like maybe there are better gamers. Probably that would be a wild assessment, but like they're probably better. There probably are better like scholars or gamers, out in Asia than there are in Europe. And actually, I can understand that. That's a data point that probably makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean it totally makes sense, man. Like what I'm thinking, like seeing all these numbers is, dude, this isn't only for the guilds. This isn't only for the players, but I mean all the other up and coming games, all these indie studios, indie developers. Man, this
Ah,
is like, dude, this is like a, I don't know, like this is like Pandora's box, like for everybody. I mean, once all these data is out there, it's just basically a free for all. I mean, now you have the data, you can focus on different regions that you want. You have an idea how these players think, how these managers work, and basically you have half the job done for you. And I mean that's a very generous thing that you guys are actually like sharing on the flip side, which isn't even directly related to what blockchain space is trying to do. I mean, just great stuff, man. Great stuff.
Thanks. Thank you.
I mean, I'd like to ask you, Peter. So, as retailers, as newbies in the space, as scholars, how can they actively participate and help build blockchain space?
So data is our game, man. And so like whenever anyone basically uses the Axie Academy bot today, right, then they're contributing their data to the ecosystem. Right. And so again, like just to emphasize, like we don't take anything sensitive. You've seen the report. Like we don't put like someone individuals like balances, or we don't expose like anything personal. Again, like actually 99% of all of the data that we aggregate is all actually from on chain. It's all public data that's actually extracted from Ronin, but we just we sort it, we filter it, and we tag it, and we make sure that we present it in a fashion which makes sense to people and can help people to give them insights. And so if you're a scholar, if you're a guild owner, make sure your guild is using the Axie Academy bot. Like again, it doesn't mean that you can't use other bots in your Discord server. There is absolutely zero conflict, right? But if you do use the Axie Academy bot, register your scholars to it, and then try and add like the commission levels if you're willing to offer that. Some people don't do it, and that's completely fine too, right? And the more data that we can aggregate, the more data points we can get around the world, right? And that just helps the whole space. Like just think of like the bigger picture is like, you're helping basically, the local guilds around you to understand like, okay, you're even providing kind of like a directory of like, oh, who are the guilds like in my country, so that I can contact them for advice. There might even be a language barrier, right? That you can't like, if there was like a guild in Turkey, versus a guild in the Philippines, these guys probably can't, connect as well. But if you could find another Turkish guild, and have that kind of directory, that'll help you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like sounds good. Like everybody at home, I mean, like you don't even have to do anything. We're helping build the whole GameFi ecosystem, like one step at a time. Like once all of these tools, like once all the other games are rolled out, like it's gonna be huge. Like in my opinion, it's gonna be huge. I mean, the transition from from utility, from crypto, and it now into games. I mean, there's just so many things that could happen, and it's good to have like projects like a blockchain space to actually be part of the building blocks of the metaverse, in my opinion. I mean, yeah. So Peter, I do believe that you guys have a campaign that's ongoing in preparation for the guild token launch. You mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. So in terms of like the campaign, so yeah, I think we're running an airdrop right now. I think it actually expires sometime today. So if you guys go to our Twitter, there is like an airdrop for guild tokens. And you guys can participate, try and get some early tokens. If not, the big day is next week. So next Wednesday we start basically our IDO. So we're launching on Copper Launch. It's basically a fair launch. The idea was, we assessed all the different token launch pads out there. And Copper basically was used also by like some other guilds like Merit Circle, Unix Guilds, right? And it has this really great, fair way of basically evaluating price. right? So the idea is that it doesn't restrict any, like the smallest contributor. So you can buy small tickets. Like you want to buy $50 worth of guild, you can do it, right? If you want to buy $50,000 worth of guild, you can do it, right? So it doesn't eliminate anyone, depending on like how big you are or how small you are from participating. Like anyone can do it, right? And you just need to use your MetaMask, or you use like, I think there's like 4 or 5 other wallets that you can use as well, right? And then the idea is that there's price discovery, right? So the idea is we think we know where a fair price should be to start. We've been studying the market for some time, and then if there isn't demand, if the price goes up too high, then the price will actually naturally go down through this platform. That's what we like about fair launch, right? We don't want the price to go too high. We want the correct price for the correct amount of demand, right? So, and we want as many people to participate as possible. Then the second part of our campaign is basically anyone that's using the Axie Academy bot. If you're not using it now, like go download it. It's 100% free, and there's no, I promise you, there is nothing unsafe about it. Like you can check what the permissions of the bot has. Right, you can see that it doesn't aggregate any unsafe data. Right, and once you've got the bot, make sure as a server owner, make sure you register your ETH address to the Axie Academy bot, right, and that will include you in the future ecosystem as one of our founding members of the economy. Right, that's really important. We want all the founding members of the economy to be included, right? And this is we're relying on the guilds basically to support the other guilds. So yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, sounds great, man. But yeah, for of course, like we're almost wrapping up with the AMA. Like we are gonna be going a bit over time. But yeah, thank you so much, Peter, for sharing like all of on basically the whole project with us. I mean, I just have like one last like really important question before I hand over the floor to Saratobi. I mean, Peter, I mean, I love the cap. Where did you get it?
So we made this one from this is our academy. That's Axie Academy's mascot. And so yeah, we had the logo made from one of the community artists in Axie. I think his name's Miskio. Really famous Miskio NFT. Go check him out on Twitter. Super amazing. He'll convert any of your designs into his own or their own personal design. So make sure you go check them out. But this is actually this is a 6-part mystic, so you won't find it right now. But I believe there is a chance to roll one still. So you never know. Could exist one day.
Sick. I mean, are you gonna be willing to trade it for a YGG cap right here?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I wouldn't trade it, but I would give you one of our other caps, and then you could give me one of your caps.
All right, sounds good. All right, I'll take it. How about you, Saratobi? Wouldn't you want to get your hands on one of those, right?
Oh, of course. I'm a merch fiend. I do like merch. Now that's something I have to say. No, I mean as a guild owner, I'm someone who's like super excited to, watch the tools in the space develop. And I suppose one kind of interesting kind of point, and I know you have to forgive me because I know that we're kind of running slightly over time here, but from the kind of just like, if you're just a scholar, do you think there's going to be like a kind of gamified layer of kind of play to earn kind of interwoven into this platform at all in a way that could benefit like the typical scholar kind of player?
Oh, yeah, I mean, 100%. So I mean, like I guess a lot of people have been seeing this. Like, we work very closely with the guys from LSL, who tonight I think they just had a really big revamp called so that they released themselves as Metasports. They just announced, right, they're going to be bringing Web3 integrated into esports, right, and they're some of my partners that I work with really closely, right. So the esports side is absolutely, fundamental to play to earn, right? We are basically building our economy based on games, right? And the fundamental pillar of that is basically, being able to compete and have fun, right? And the funny thing is now, like, we're becoming the marketing channel, right? Like advertisers, like the big advertisers, who knows, like Coca-Cola will probably come into this space and say, hey, we want to target all the play to earn community, right? They're the most important community right now, right? And so definitely through this opportunity to basically have tournaments, and we've already teased something called an SLP race, right? And some people have already played it in the LSL Discord before, and so we are, through our automation, looking to automate some of the tournament side as well. And so it could be the fun stuff, like things like I bet with my friend over here that within 24 hours I can get a higher score, right? And that's a fun way to keep yourselves incentivized to like play Axie, right? And so you could even wager something on top of that. So imagine like making little micro bets with all of your colleagues, because like, let's be honest, man, like when you play these games like 2-3 hours a day, it is a part-time job, right? And so like, let's not forget, like when you play against the computer for like 2 hours, and then you play against the same kind of like people in your same MMR bracket for like another 2 hours, right? It can become really repetitive, right? So we want to bring the fun back. Like, these are games ultimately, right? And so there's ways to like make it fun again, right? And there are people that actually want to incentivize you and pay you tokens just for having fun. So yeah, there's 100% definitely ways that like scholars are gonna 100% benefit from all of this.
That's awesome. No, definitely. I mean, it's always good to have some kind of layer of kind of equitable value here across the board, but definitely like just super excited from the kind of, as a guild owner, to see these kind of tooling evolve. And yeah, when are we gonna, which guild is going to be the first to get sponsored by Coca-Cola? That's or maybe it's going to be on BlockchainSpace. Maybe BlockchainSpace will just advertise on Coca-Cola to all of the guilds. That'd be
exactly. And then all the guilds get the money. That's the most important part.
Yeah, for all that Coke that we're going to be drinking in the Metaverse Coke. Meta Coke. Who's going to come up with Meta Coke?
Meta Cola, right?
Meta Cola. That's actually a really good brand. Quick, Sedano. Quick, wait. I'm going to speak to my assistant. Wait. Trademark that.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Peter, man, it's been great to be it's great to have you tonight, man. It's been a breeze talking to you. I mean, I'm really happy that that you've been able to personally explain to me and to the community, what actually your plans are and what you want to build for the metaverse. But yeah, and behalf of the YGG community, and of course also Saratobi, we'd like to thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And yeah, I mean, Saratobi, take over.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, for everybody in the audience, it would be great to know what are the best ways to keep up with BlockchainSpace.
So I guess the best place is always on Twitter. So find us at blockchain_SPC, right? And then you can also join our Discord. So just look up, I think it's discord.gg/blockchainspace. So we finally got our personalized Discord name as well.
Fantastic. So
Awesome.
make sure to follow them on Twitter, join the Discord, keep up to date with what's going on. Obviously, thank you everyone in the audience for joining us normal, and thank you, Peter. Thank you to the one, the only, the legend himself, Mr. John Sedano, for being a wonderful host as always. And yeah,
I'm gonna be sending you guys Meta Cola. Don't worry. See you guys soon. Bye. Bye.
Thank
you
so much, guys. Bye.
John, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.